kind of like the ruby slippers. You remember the ruby slippers that Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz had on, and the wizard told her, says, well, you had the power all the time to go back to Kansas. You just didn't realize it. And this is what I said yesterday at the end of the broadcast about our spirituality. We are spiritual. We've been made in the very image of God. We are God-breathed. God breathed the breath of life into humanity. Unfortunately, many people have not come to that awareness, and they're living and they're operating in their soulish realm, and they're following after the dictates of the flesh and the carnal heart and carnal mind. But it's an amazing thing when those eyes become open and people begin to realize that they're spiritual and there's a spiritual God, there's spiritual activity taking place all around you. And this is what I've been bringing out to you the last few weeks here in the book of Acts, starting with that manifestation of the Holy Spirit there when those early believers were gathered together and they saw the cloven tongues of fire and the mighty rushing wind and the people speaking in unknown languages, and amazing. And then if you watch the sequence of events in the book of Acts, and you see in chapter 3 the healing of the lame man, and all through this it talks about healings, it talks about miracles. And then we come to that young man Stephen, one of the 7 deacons. And I don't know whether you've caught this or not in your readings of the book of Acts, but before it talks about him standing up there before the council and preaching that tremendous sermons, he was preaching and miracles were taking place through his ministry. Now, he was seeing the Holy Spirit move, and this is all a part of the revival experience that was happening there in the city of Jerusalem, feeling all of the Jerusalem with their doctrine. I mean, meeting from house to house, and they were seeing miracles and healings, and this was the Spirit of God moving. But as I said yesterday, Peter, even though he quoted the prophet Joel in that sermon on the day of Pentecost when he said, this is for all flesh, he had not come to that. And interesting enough, again, I'm reading through it, taking my time and just picking out the nuggets. I caught something the other day that I had not seen. It said that when they first went to Antioch, and if you follow the sequence of events, after the death of Stephen, persecution came to the church and people fled. And a group of believers went to Antioch, which is kind of a part of the outer regions, and they began to preach, but they were only going into the synagogue in the beginning. But God had other plans. And they began to preach Christ to all who would listen. And this caught the attention of the elders back in Jerusalem. They sent Barnabas up to investigate. Barnabas reported back, it's all good. God's moving upon all flesh. All those who would receive and allow themselves to open up to possibilities of activities of God and spiritual things. This is Pastor Jack King with the gospel on the radio broadcast.